Tiffany Henyard now finds herself at the center of a national scandal gripping Dalton, Illinois. What began as a hopeful journey filled with bold plans to revive a struggling town has unraveled into a full-blown crisis marked by financial mismanagement, personal enrichment, and multiple federal investigations. Henyard, once admired by residents and city officials alike, now stands accused of betraying the very community she vowed to uplift. Her swift rise to power was dramatic. She became mayor following the sudden death of longtime leader Frank Zuccarelli. Even at the start, her appointment drew skepticism, but Henyard silenced critics with ambitious promises to transform Dalton, a town long burdened by financial hardship. Focusing on veterans, seniors, and economic development, Henyard initially inspired hope. By 2021, she solidified her grip on power, winning the mayoral election with overwhelming support. But she didn't stop there. She expanded her reach by also taking on a role of supervisor of Thornton Township, effectively controlling two major political offices at once. This maneuver doubled her salary to nearly $200,000 and gave her immense political influence. At first, it looked like Dalton was on the verge of a turnaround, but behind the scenes, warning signs emerged. As Henyard's influence grew, so did the controversies. Her administration quickly developed a reputation for secrecy, and questions about financial practices began surfacing. Critics accused her of treating Dalton like a personal empire, redirecting public funds for her own benefit. Those accusations intensified as details about her spending came to light. Public money earmarked for infrastructure, essential services, and community programs was allegedly used for luxury vacations, expensive shopping sprees, and even a $500,000 driveway for her mother's home. Residents, already grappling with a $3.5 million municipal deficit, watched in disbelief as their mayor lived lavishly while potholes remained unfilled and city services deteriorated. Outrage spread quickly on social media, where residents vented their frustrations, feeling betrayed and abandoned. But rather than pull back, Henyard doubled down. She tightened her control, surrounded herself with loyalists, and reportedly silenced dissenters who dared question her authority. Then came the bombshell, a full-scale FBI investigation. Federal agents raided Henyard's home, reportedly uncovering stashes of hidden cash totaling millions, strongly suggesting public funds were being siphoned off for personal use. This stunning revelation marked a turning point for many Dalton residents who had already lost faith in their mayor. The investigation unearthed even more damning details. In just 5 months, Henyard had allegedly spent $67,000 on travel, more than what many Dalton residents earn in an entire year. What began as official business trips morphed into extravagant getaways featuring entourages, 5-star hotels, fine dining, and even motorbike joyrides, all financed by taxpayer money. Perhaps the most shameless use of public funds was her self-promotion. Plastering her face on billboards across town, these weren't political ads. They were pure vanity projects. While Dalton's roads crumbled and essential services remained underfunded, Henyard promoted herself like a celebrity. Another critical blow came with revelations about the Tiffany Henyard Care Foundation, a breast cancer charity she founded. What was supposed to be a noble cause was allegedly just another funnel for personal indulgences. Investigators claimed donations were used for luxury purchases, designer clothing, vacations, and even helped fund that now infamous $500,000 driveway at her mother's house. As these revelations exploded in local and national media, anger boiled over. Residents learned that Henyard wasn't just misusing travel budgets. She was also allegedly using taxpayer dollars to produce branded merchandise like T-shirts and hoodies, which she then sold for personal profit. Even when confronted, Henyard offered no real answers. Her refusal to explain only deepened suspicions, making it clear to many that she was exploiting her position for personal gain. Meanwhile, the town was falling deeper into chaos. City services faltered, debt ballooned, and public trust evaporated. The very person elected to lift Dalton out of crisis had instead dragged it into deeper dysfunction. At the heart of this story lies a devastating betrayal of public trust. Critics argue that Henyard's downfall is a classic tale of unchecked power, a politician who lost sight of the people she was elected to serve. The growing pile of luxury spending painted a haunting contrast against the backdrop of a town in financial ruin. The FBI probe continues to dig deeper, and rumors swirl that Henyard's once loyal inner circle is now turning on her, cooperated with investigators to avoid prosecution. Some of her closest allies and key officials are reportedly providing evidence that could further implicate the embattled mayor. Despite the mountain of allegations, Henyard remains defiant. She insists the accusations are politically motivated and has continued posting cryptic, defiant messages on social media. But her attempts to rally public support have largely fallen flat. Calls for her resignation grow louder by the day, and what was once a promising political career now appears to be in free fall. What could have been a legacy of progress and leadership has become a cautionary tale of greed, power, and broken promises. Henyard's downfall is no longer just about one political figure's missteps. It's about the lasting damage caused when public accountability disappears. For the people of Dalton, the fight to recover from this chapter is only just beginning. As the investigation moves forward, it seems increasingly unlikely that Henyard will hold on to her office much longer. Her credibility has been shattered, her name tarnished, and her administration engulfed in scandal. The story of Tiffany Henyard, once seen as a beacon of hope for a struggling town, now stands as a stark reminder of why transparency, integrity, and accountability are non-negotiable in public service. Henyard's reign may soon come to an end, but for Dalton, the hard work of rebuilding and restoring public trust has only just begun. Once hailed as a bold, transformative leader, Tiffany Henyard's political legacy is now collapsing under the crushing weight of scandal. What many in Dalton, Illinois, originally saw as fearless leadership has been exposed as unchecked ambition, reckless financial behavior, and deep-seated corruption. As the evidence piles up, Henyard's credibility unravels further with each new revelation. Even as public outrage swells and the facts become harder to deny, Henyard has refused to take accountability. She has framed the backlash as little more than the cost of being in the public eye, painting herself as a victim. But her actions tell a darker story, one where ego and power took precedence over public service. The federal investigation into her spending and conduct is ongoing, and while the outcome remains uncertain, it's looking increasingly unlikely she will salvage any part of her reputation. Her refusal to acknowledge the growing calls for resignation has only widened the gulf between Henyard and the people she was elected to serve. Dalton is now a town in crisis, financially wrecked, politically fractured, and desperate for accountability and a path forward. What was once seen as a promising administration has become a case study in how quickly unchecked power can spiral into chaos, turning hope into betrayal and a once bright future into a nightmare of dysfunction. Dalton's financial health is in tatters. Once optimistic about its future, the town now finds itself clawing back from the brink, facing not only economic ruin, but also profound erosion of trust in local government. Henyard's administration will be remembered not for revitalization or progress, but for broken promises, inflated egos, and unethical behavior. Her name is now inseparable from financial mismanagement and a total disregard for the well-being of the people she swore to serve. While investigations are still underway, one thing is already clear. The damage done to Dalton won't be undone overnight. Long after Tiffany Henyard fades from the political spotlight, her scandal-plagued administration will cast a long shadow over the community she left behind. What began as a hopeful story has become a cautionary tale, a warning about ambition run wild, power misused, and a community left to pick up the pieces. Lavish trips, personal security expenses, public funds redirected for private gain. These have become the hallmarks of Henyard's time in office. Her administration burned through taxpayer money at an alarming rate, even as Dalton's infrastructure and essential services crumbled. The town's financial woes are no longer just numbers on a spreadsheet. They're visible in the pothole-ridden streets, the undermaintained parks, and the struggling schools. Meanwhile, critics argue that Henyard came to see Dalton not as a community to uplift, but as a domain to control. Workers were allegedly coerced into spying on political opponents, and local business owners who refused their demands were reportedly targeted. Dissent wasn't just discouraged, it was punished. This wasn't leadership. It was intimidation. Yet Henyard deflected at every turn. She dismissed criticism as politically motivated, often framing herself as the victim of targeted attacks. She claimed the backlash was about her gender, but many saw those defenses for what they were: hollow, self-serving, and disconnected from the painful realities facing Dalton citizens. The deeper the investigations go, the darker the picture becomes. The FBI is now deeply involved, and what they've uncovered has shocked even Henyard's harshest critics. A search of her home reportedly turned up large sums of hidden cash financial records are being combed over, and her controversial charity, the Tiffany Henyard Care Foundation, is under the microscope. Wire fraud and embezzlement charges could soon be on the table. Adding fuel to the fire is the legal trouble facing former top ally Keith Freeman, once Henyard's right-hand man. Freeman has been charged with bankruptcy fraud and is rumored to be cooperating with federal investigators. If true, the fallout could be catastrophic for Henyard. The walls are closing in. At the same time, state funds have been frozen, leaving Dalton scrambling to stay afloat. Street repairs are unpaid. Tree trimming has been halted, and the town hasn't had an annual audit since 2021. The financial picture is grim and worsening by the day. Residents are rightfully furious. Many believe all of this could have been avoided if Henyard had been held accountable earlier, but her pattern of retaliation and denial only accelerated the town's decline. Take the case of Boeing Thrash, a former employee of Thornton Township. He claims he was fired for refusing to replace an attorney with someone of Henyard's choosing, a clear example of the political bullying that reportedly became routine under her watch. Other reports are even more disturbing. Critics claim she used police officers as enforcers, sending them to homes of those who spoke out against her. It created an atmosphere of fear, where the police weren't protecting residents but protecting Henyard. It's a damning legacy, and as Keith Freeman potentially flips on his former boss, the legal pressure is rising fast. Investigators are now digging into every aspect of Henyard's administration, from shady contracts to nonprofit fund misuse, inflated salaries, and vendetta-driven terminations. Dalton is left in the wreckage. Its future hangs in the balance, and residents are demanding real change. A growing movement is calling for a clean sweep of local leadership, an overhaul that prioritizes transparency, accountability, and genuine public service over ego and ambition. Henyard's time in power has brought Dalton to the edge, and now the town must rebuild not just its finances, but the public trust her administration so thoroughly destroyed. It won't be easy and it won't be fast, but it is necessary. The people of Dalton deserve better. They deserve a leader who puts the community first, someone who sees public office not as a throne, but as a responsibility. As the investigations continue, one thing is becoming undeniable. Tiffany Henyard's time in power will not be remembered for her vision or her promises, but for her downfall. A scandal that started as whispers has now become a national spectacle. And while Henyard continues to deny, deflect, and downplay, the facts keep emerging. The residents of Dalton are no longer fooled. Now they're waiting, not just for justice, but for a chance to finally turn the page.